Everybody to another Eqafe Hangout. Today we are going to be discussing the Eqafe Hangout emotional bullying in the relationship success series, eqafe.com. And we have two guests with us today. We have Valentin from Slovenia. Welcome, Valentin.
Hello.
And we also have Yogan from the US. Welcome, Yogan.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Cool. And I just want to go over a little bit of a recap of what Eqafe is. It's a website where there's many topics discussed on many different topics of our lives, you know, relationships, the mind, all sorts of anything that really comes up in our lives day to day. If you have any issues or problems, you can go to the site and find perspectives. So it's definitely something that we highly suggest you guys check out. I have links below in this Hangout description. Also, it's connected to the Desteni process, which myself and the two guests also are walking currently, and have been walking for many years. So Eqafe is like the educational library for the Desteni process. So they're connected and they're linked. So that's just a little recap on those 2 points. And so this interview we're going to be discussing today is emotional bullying, and this is in the relationship series. And I'm going to ask you guys, what's your perspective or summary on this interview that you guys can share for the audience? Valentin, why don't you start?
Okay. So this interview relates to bullying and being bullied, and especially in regards to using a specific frequency of voice, which includes emotion. So one can bully another physically, like hitting, pushing, and so on. But the basics of the bullying are in using words that create specific emotional reactions in other peoples that we want to bully. So the person who is a victim of such bullying can, of course, take control over their emotions, but we all have very deep subconscious programming that result in us reacting emotionally, even if we do not want to. So we will talk more about this in our chat.
Great, thanks for sharing. I also wanted to mention that we do have the question and answers window open if you guys want to comment or ask any questions throughout the live Hangout. It's open and ready for you. Thanks. And Yogan, why don't you share your perspective on or summary of the interview?
Right. So my summary of the interview is that they cover very specific points where within some people, for some people, they're very, I want to say the word sensitive to the sound that other people make. And in this context, it's like kind of like an aggressive sound or like an angry sound, or that like their tone of voice of certain people where they feel like it's, in the interview, described it as like emotional bullets, where like as if someone's like shooting bullets at you, and within yourself you're feeling like you want to hide and just like hide away from the bullets, like it's like someone's like literally shooting at you. And that this has to do with an experience like prior from like childhood, where it's almost like a trauma experience which I can relate to a lot because from my dad's side of the family, they would fight a lot and argue a lot. Like, you know, from like full up, like fighting and screaming and yelling, like, you know, the worst of things. And just hearing their tone of voice, like it just like had like an impact on me where I could just like feel it within myself, as if like left like a scar, left like a memory or an imprint, where just like I can remember that voice so clearly that they were using. So like I remember growing up, like anytime I would hear that similar kind of voice, even in context where it wasn't really yelling, but it just sounded like that, that I would remember that and feel the same way, and would feel kind of, I like how they describe an interview, like kind of, well, for me, how one describes like being like small, like trying to like avoid the situation or just try to make the situation better, or not try to like do anything to make it worse. And what's interesting is that in this interview, they're very much talking about how the two people, one that's speaking with the emotional voice and the person who's reacting to it, that they can come together, talk about it, communicate, and actually support each other to see what they're doing, which I found really cool in this interview. So anyone who either does the emotional like voice, or who reacts to those emotional voices, that they will benefit from this interview, because they will receive pointers and support about how to approach the other person, work together, and take responsibility for yourselves within the dynamic. Yeah, so that's my summary for now. I think it's a good place to start for us.
Cool, Jürgen. Thanks. Yeah, also, one thing that you mentioned, Jürgen, was in the interview how they talk about how it create like these bullets, they call it, basically the voice of someone in emotion, say anger or yelling, how it creates like it feels like to the person that is sensitive to that, it feels like it's like bullets being shot at them and they have to protect themselves. And what they mentioned in the interview was that a result of post-traumatic stress disorder, it's like an actual trauma that has been experienced at some point in the person's life, to experience themselves feeling like they have to hide away from these voice bullets, so to speak. So, I mean, I related to it. And let's go into what kind of traumas, like where does these traumas start, and important is it in our childhood, those memories that are, you know, so suppressed within us, can be so suppressed, or, you know, just forgotten because it was so long ago. How important are those memories, and what is the impact of them in our living as adults? So can you guys just kind of share your perspectives on that? To start.
Okay. Let me start with that point. Yeah, the early years after birth are very important. And this also relates to a different series that I would like to recommend at this point. It's called Parenting, Perfecting the Human Race. This is additional interview series that explains how in first years after birth, the physical body is extremely sensitive for different sounds. And there are natural sounds that are spoken from the physical body without using any energy, and that resonate very nicely with the physical body of the child. However, if we use emotions within talking to the child, these emotional energies are like if we would throw a stone in a nice peaceful pond or a lake. It creates ripples, And if such occasions are repeating many times, they actually integrate in the physical body. It actually changes the physical structure of the human physical body, and it crystallizes. These energies crystallize, and they create automatic unconscious response. So when we grow up, such deep emotional energies, frequencies are deeply rooted in our bodies. And when we hear certain sounds, they activate without us being able to stop them. And it takes a lot of work, introspection, to become aware of such patterns and to root them out of ourselves. This is especially effective if we sound self-forgiveness out loud with specific intensity and vibration that effectively like shatters these crystallized structures in our physical body. And then we are able to become masters of such patterns and such energies, so that when we hear sounds with emotions, that we do not automatically react. But usually these reactions are like a sort of post-traumatic stress disorder. So they are very strong, very intense, but there is option to deal with them.
Cool, thanks for that. Yogan, do you have anything to share?
I think what I said before with just with my family, like I remember that experience really well. So yeah. So yeah, I mean, just to answer your question, that's what I experienced in my childhood. That I see that forming part of this, let's say, personality, of this way of being. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were finished.
I don't know. Do you have any experiences?
Yeah, well, I was just gonna share that in hearing this interview, like I didn't realize for myself because I do have this experience when people speak to me in certain tonalities. I have a hard time like that. Like it takes a lot for me to, stand up in myself and confront someone that is maybe screaming or being very emotional. And I had that experience of it like really having an effect on me. And this interview opened up the fact that it kind of pieced it together where I realized, okay, there is certain memories I have in my past or in my childhood of yelling at me. And in the Destiny process, you write your memories out and you walk through them. And the memories that come up in this process is amazing that, it's just these random old childhood memories that come up as you start looking within yourself and realizing that, these things actually happened and they've just been so suppressed inside of us, not realizing that these memories are also, like Valentin said, unconsciously are having an effect on us. Like me not being able to handle someone who is emotional within their voice is because there's memories inside of me where I'm still being kind of affected or moved by whatever the energy is within me that is, someone yelled at me or my parents were fighting, or there's this one memory of my uncle screaming at me on a escalator because I was going up. I was really young. I was going up instead of going down, so I was going the opposite way, and we had to go, and I wouldn't listen to him. So he yelled at me, and I have that memory pop. Like, that is one of them that was strong inside of me that I've been writing out. So yeah, I mean, just to show you guys who are watching that these memories are still within us, and they do hold energy inside of them that unconsciously are having an effect on our day-to-day living. And in this interview, and being able to stand up and support someone or speak with someone who is in emotion, but kind of cower away and suppress myself, and allow energy as emotions to direct me instead of me directing myself within that scenario, and not allowing, and using the tools. We'll talk about the tools later on in this hangout of how to walk through energy and emotions and be able to stand within that and direct yourself. So that's a little bit of my sharing on that point. Okay, let's go on to the next question, or the next point I wanted to discuss, and it was relationships. What is the play out between someone who is being bullied and someone who is feeling like they are bullied? Like, in the scenario where someone is experiencing their partner's voice as too strong, too intense, and not able to speak themselves. Because one other point that they shared in this interview was that those that are not able to speak and are experiencing themselves in this having these bullets, these voice bullets, they actually have a lot to share, and they do see and are able to see quite directly and are very observant and things like that. So in a relationship scenario, what are some of the consequences that is created with one partner being very emotional and kind of emotionally bullying the other partner who is kind of having this traumatic experience with the voice tonalities? Yogan, you want to share a little bit on that?
Yeah, just like how in the interview they said, you can either bring out the worst in each other, or you can actually, bring out the best in each other. So obviously, if you stay in that dynamic where one person is just talking with an emotion, shooting the emotional bullets, and the other person is just reacting, and that never changes, then both persons are both within their patterns, nothing changes, right? So yeah, that's just not really a great thing.
Yogan, do you have any experience with that? Like, can you share any kind of experiences of yourself, either being that bullied person or being the bully, like kind of how that played out and what the consequences of that was?
I mean, this has been like a pattern of mine through my whole entire life, where even if it's just in random situations with people that I just met or even don't even know, they're just on the street, just when you hear them talk with an anger. Like, I remember like one time, like some guy was just really angry about something, which I don't know what. He was like on the street somewhere far away, he just was cursing out words. And just when I hear that, it's just like it's like a fear comes up, like, oh, like danger, like survival, like look out, like look what's going on. And that's more extreme case, but even just work with other people where in the work environment, people tend to get, well, it seems like in my experience, people tend to get frustrated and angry, and they resort to yelling orders or being really frustrating, expressing their anger and frustration very easily, especially in a case where you're the employee and you have your employer, your boss, who does that, the thing that may be part of it. So in those kind of situations, yeah, like anytime someone will get angry, yelling, even if it has nothing to do with me, I would respond as if it was me. And same, I remember now, even experience within childhood where in school, the teacher was like angry about one student doing something, but the teacher didn't know who it was. So she was talking to the whole entire class about what this horrible thing the student did. And she was expressing how she felt, but it really felt like she was talking directly to me as if I was the one who did the bad thing. And it had to do, I guess, with her voice tonality as well, her anger, her frustration, her emotion. And it just felt like, like a hitting me, like punching me in the gut kind of like a sensation. So it's definitely, I experienced that, and all those kind of emotion, all those different moments, those always stay with me, and I can remember it fairly easily. And that's been part of why, like, in those kind of situations, I kind of, respond as if I'm being physically attacked, like trying to go away, avoid it, try to be nice. And even it's like even it's kind of sort of disorienting where I don't really know exactly what to do. Like if it's in a work environment situation, it affects me where I'm not able really to really focus or do what I need to do. Where I feel like kind of that's always like a weight on me, that experience. So yeah, it's been that there throughout my whole entire life since our early childhood till now. Lots of different people, lots of different situations.
Okay, cool. Valentine, do you have any experiences to share?
Yeah. So this interview was specific to the very subtle energy, vibrations, tonalities in the voice. And I was initially not able to relate to this interview because I have been perceiving myself as a person who reacts only when exposed to very intense energies within the voice of others. But then before the chat, we had a talk, and I actually remember that I do react to specific sounds. And the first sound is the energy of the anger, emotion of the anger within the voice, because my father was angry many times because I am the oldest son, and I had to be serious and responsible. And whenever I would do tiniest mistake, he would become mad and even breaking things due to anger. So when recently I was cleaning the hallway, and landlord came and started to tell me something with the energy of anger within his voice. I became also angry extremely very well, and then I was not very comfortable. But initially, I have been suppressing this anger because I was not allowed to express emotionally in my family. But now I have explained to him nicely that everything can be communicated nicely without using any energy, and that he should calm down and explain what his wishes are. So he did. And then the other point is laughing. I have been in the primary school bullied by the peers. I was like having laughs towards me. And now when I hear someone laughing, and this happened a couple of days ago when I had a visitor in the room near me, when I hear laughing, I know that this person actually does not make fun of me, but it immediately triggered reaction within me that they are laughing, and that there is something wrong with me. So such experiences in the past do leave impressions, deep impressions, and we are doing within Deep Light the process of how to like take this explosive charge out of these patterns so that we become immune to such sounds and to be able to be stable within, stable emotionally, regardless of what sounds we hear.
I like to talk
Okay,
about.
thanks, Valentin.
All right. Well, it's okay. Like I would like to talk about the part of the interview where it's about both people like coming together and support each other within their individual points. You know, because in the interview they're talking about, you know, because it's a two-person dynamic where one person is speaking with, let's say, emotional bullets, another person is reacting. How when you're in that situation, what tends to happen a lot is people want the other person to change first, and they have all, and you know, in the interview they support with that to show that it's really like a point of justifying that oneself doesn't have to change, and that really, you know, really nothing's going to change. So it's really each person has to be the one that steps forward to take responsibility for their part, and then within that they can support the other person within what they're saying. Can we talk about that?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an awesome point. Yeah, because I've been in agreement now for a couple of years, and we've been through all sorts of different conflicts and conflict resolutions and things like that. And pretty early on, you realize that repeating this point of, you know, you need to change because this, and this I'm seeing, and you know, it's kind of saying to the person, you're the problem. You need to figure yourself out. And over here in, you know, where I'm at, I'm walking fine. I'm perfect. I'm good. You know, you're the problem. And if this just keeps repeating, then it gets to a point where it's you know, it can't be resolved. The points are, it then becomes about who is it just starts to dissolve, basically, the relationship, the agreement, whatever is going on with that kind of play out happening. So one of the principles in the Destiny process is to take the point back to yourself. So if you're seeing in another person that they're say being too emotional, they're the ones raising their voice and creating emotions in you. You have to turn that around and then look within yourself and see within yourself, where in your life are you also emotional? Where within your life are you reacting to? And if you see any point inside yourself that you are reacting to others, or you're creating emotions in this example, you obviously have to correct yourself first. You can't expect another person to change or to become perfect within themselves if you yourself are not walking that process. And so that's a very important point, Yogan, to ensure that you're not allowing your mind to use justifications of bullying and allowing the bullying to continue, saying that it's another person's problem, they need to change. It's you know, they have to change first. I'm not going to change first. Things of that nature. Do you guys want to share any added points?
Yeah. So just today, I noticed a comment on the Facebook wall of some of my friends, and she said, "It is not our responsibility if our words or actions hurt someone or make them mad. This only shows that the person that we are talking to has some painful points within themselves that need to deal." So yeah, definitely if someone reacts to our words or our actions, it is their responsibility. But when we notice that someone has reactional patterns, that it is very sensitive to some words or tonalities, then it also becomes our responsibility, because we are then able to deliberately use some certain words or tonalities to trigger those reactions within others. So if when we notice that someone is reacting, we are not to continue and just become deliberate bullies, but to support them, to understand which are their weaknesses, and then support them to overcome their weaknesses and to enhance their strengths. So I was actually also, I initially did not consider myself to be bullied. I always felt like a victim. But then during the process, I also become aware that I have been bullying others because I just had my own ideas that I'm like a perfect person, that I know what is right and how other people must behave. So I become very critical, and I pointed out only weaknesses for other persons, for other people. So then I become aware what I'm doing, that I'm also a bully, and then I also understood why I have been bullied, because other people actually also reflect what you are really within yourself. So when I transform those patterns, when I did self-forgiveness on approaching others in this way, like a bully, then also bullying from the side of other people stopped. And now I'm able to communicate with everyone as equals, and not only from my perspective, how I see them on the first sight, but also to understand them deeply, who they are, their weaknesses, and I try not to use those weaknesses against them.
And
Thanks, Valentin.
Yeah, just
You broke up a little bit there, Valentin, but I think we got the gist of it. Go ahead, Jogan.
yeah, just to add to that, when Valentin said our strengths, that in an interview, they also brought up the gifts within each person, where the person who was like reacting to the emotional bullets coming at them, that they're at that point where they can have the potential of seeing things and observing things very deeply and be able to share things very directly. And the person who was speaking with an emotion, they have the ability to like rationalize and really see what's best in the situation. So what's more happening is that each person is sort of participating within a dimension of emotion, where the person who's speaking with an emotion is as if they have something they want to say, but it's within the emotional point, but they fall because they go within and they feel like they have to speak right away. When, as was shared in the interview, the solution of taking a step back, of slowing down, of really looking at the situation and really seeing what they're saying in a way, to really have it to be specific and what's the best, and that they have that potential to do that. The same thing with the person who was reacting to the emotional bullets, that they have the ability to see what's happening within the other person, that perception, and that ability to share that directly. So yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
Awesome. Thanks, Jogan. That's definitely cool support. Yeah, and also I want to my point. I forget. Okay. There is a question though here. Let me read it and we can give our perspective. It's from a YouTuber named I'm Not Here to Create Questions.
Ironic.
In regard to going over your memories and breath. Okay, so he wants to ask a question about going over your memories and breath and forgiveness exercises. He's asking, what instances should I be physically speaking through these, if any? Actually, I'll start because one of the points I wanted to share, I remember it now, was in those moments where you are with another person and you are in an emotion, you're the one speaking, being the bully, speaking emotion towards another person who is experiencing themselves as kind of insecure and not able to handle the voice tonalities and things like that, is being seen as the bullied. Moments you can, while taking the point back to yourself, move into self-forgiveness, speaking self-forgiveness. Or you can also write self-forgiveness. So in the Destiny I process, they have all these tools is to walk through these experiences that have a solution. So when they do come up, eventually you'll be able to forgiveness or speak the self-forgiveness and then find solutions through the self-forgiveness and through the commitment statement. So there's tools that are here to be walked, and the sounding of self-forgiveness is specific as well. There's many interviews on this on Eqafe, mainly in the Atlantean series. They go over different tonalities and voices that you can use in speaking self-forgiveness that will support to diminish the energy or release the energy and get back to a stability, or get back to your baseline or breath, like be here. It brings you back to reality, basically. Anything more on those points? Yogan, go for it.
So I'm just reading his question, and it seems like he is asking, when does he physically speak, as if he like sounded out loud, I guess. There is like the sounding self-forgiveness, which is also a specific process that is in a kind of way more effective, and it's also, yeah, well, yeah. And so yeah, you could speak self-forgiveness out loud, and that would support greatly. And there's a whole like interview series on Eqafe about that. The Atlantean series on Eqafe, they go over, like for a while now, for years now, they've been going over different emotions and introducing sounding self-forgiveness on what sounds to make to support with specific emotions. And also there's recent interviews now in the Reptilian series going over sounding self-forgiveness as well. So yeah, that's what I would say about physically speaking for self-forgiveness.
Right. Valentine, do you have anything to share?
Yeah. So I have been mostly doing self-forgiveness in writing, but also in the recent interviews, there has been a specific reminder to speak self-forgiveness more often, because it is very important. Why? Our voice has a certain power because we are in physical bodies, and if we only write, it is a sort of physical integration where we commit our words to ourselves to integrate with the body and thus change the pattern. But for especially very deep patterns, it is very effective to speak out self-forgiveness, because the frequency, the sound vibration that our voice produce interacts with these patterns that are in form of crystals within our physical bodies, and thus enables to be removed more effectively. So it is suggested to speak out self-forgiveness as often as possible. You cannot do too much self-forgivenesses out loud. It would be cool if every self-forgiveness would be done out loud, but of course in some cases it is not possible due to our surrounding. So this is answer to this question, and let me also address the second question, the latest question from Matthias. He says that he's trying to become one with other, to understand their emotions and not to entice them, to trigger those emotions. And he asks, is it possible to achieve this, that one is not reacting emotionally to anything? I would say it is possible, and we are practical examples of how we are moving towards this ideal, because we, as a physical beings, if we become one with the physical, we lose every fear, every trigger point that trigger emotion, because we are not anymore of the mind, and we become of the physical. And the physical does not have fear, because it is eternal, basically. It does not have fear because it knows that death is part of life, and that all life originates from life and returns to life. So only the mind has fear, only the mind needs energy to exist and wants to react in order to extract the living energy from our bodies and convert it to mind energy. But when we take control over the mind and become aware that we do not need to be one with the mind, that it is better that we are one with the physical. We can transcend every pattern and become totally emotionally stable and hear any kind of sound and voice and be stable inside. This is totally possible.
Cool, Valentin, thank you. Yeah, just to add a little bit to that point that Valentin spoke about on speaking self-forgiveness and how over time you are able to not be affected by emotions. And when you start your process, your destiny process, what we've all been walking, you start to understand yourself more of who you are as life, like who we are beyond our minds, who we are beyond what we've known of ourselves throughout our, since we've been born, throughout history. Humans have been a specific way. We've only known ourselves a specific way. And now through destiny process, through Eqafe, through the portal that is bringing through this information, the information that's coming out is saying, and we're realizing within ourselves, that we are much more than just mind, emotions, speaking in these energetic tones, and how we get to a point where we can be stable in our voices and also stable when someone else is speaking in a higher tone or intense tone or energetically towards you, and not being moved by that. Self-forgiveness is through understanding yourself within these patterns, within these fears, within these memories that come up, and realizing yourself and understanding and learning how to change to be able to stand within that point. So as you write yourself out, you start to understand yourself, and you'll be amazed at what opens up within you, because there's like a universe inside of us. It's amazing what is within us. And once you start to get the tools down and you start to in this process, the destiny process, because that is where all the tools are, the structure and things like that, you will start to open yourself up to more of who you are as life. And they share it within the interviews in different ways about what our capabilities are. They speak about the animals and how the animals are connected to source, substance, which is actually what is within us, which connects us all. And the way to that, and the way to live that, is by living one and equal with all life. And that takes a process. That's what we're doing within walking this destiny process. We're speaking ourselves, we're voicing ourselves, because who we are in our words, what we speak, is who we are in our living, is what we are creating. So by speaking the self-forgiveness, you're actually creating yourself, and you're also correcting yourself. So it's a process. It takes years, but it is definitely worth it. I mean, I'm sure all of us can share how we've changed and how it's changed our lives, and who we were in the beginning of this and who we are now, and what kind of leaps we've made within walking this destiny process. So thank you guys for your questions. It's pretty much almost an hour now. I'm going to wrap up this hangout. Do you guys have any last points you guys want to share about this interview or anything we discussed? Yogan, why don't you start?
Yeah, just for anyone that's been interested by this hangout, that to go check out the interview for yourself, because there you're going to hear directly what we've been talking about, and that there are like thousands of interviews that cover all different topics and sorts of topics they can look at and check out. So yeah, just to be curious to check out the Desteni website, check out Eqafe, check out the desteni process. There's like lots of information there that can help you out. If you have any questions, just ask someone, or you can search in the search bar too.
Cool, Yogan. Thanks.
Okay, for the end, I would like to tell a very nice practical anecdote in relation to emotions. A farmer had a son, and the son became very angry very frequently. So the farmer told his son, whenever you become angry, take a nail and, you know, put it in the wooden fence, you know, to strike it with a hammer in the wooden fence. And the first day, the farmer, the boy, hammered a couple of nails in the fence, and then the other day again. But then every next day, the amount of nails slowly decreased. And one day it came to that even there was no even one new nail in the fence. So the farmer said, now the day that you do not become angry, you take one nail out of the fence. So and slowly the amount of nails in the fence slowly diminished, till the day where there were no nails in the fence. And then farmer said, now look at the fence. You see, there are no more nails in the fence, but there are still holes from the nails in the fence. And this is similar when becoming angry over someone. When you are angry at someone, it's like hammering nail in their body. You can then ask for forgiveness. You can say you are sorry, but there will be a wound. There will be a hole in that person's body. So we all influence to other when we communicate using emotions and feelings. And we are to become aware of these influences that can last many years, on even the whole lifetime, and to prevent those consequences. This is the best options, not to heal such wounds, but to prevent even from happening in the first place.
Thanks, Valentin.
Yeah, awesome, Valentine. Great way to close out the Hangout. All right, guys. Thank you for participating, and thanks, Valentine. Thanks, Yogan, for being here. It was great discussion. Great points brought through.
It was my pleasure.
Thanks, everybody, for listening and participating with the questions. There will be definitely links below to all these links or all these websites we've been talking about in the desteni process, Eqafe, things like that. So there's resources below, so check them out. And we'll see you next time for another Eqafe Hangout. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.